Let's walk into unfashionable territory. Julian Assange is an Australian. Whatever your opinion might be, he's one of us. As a senior political figure wrote to me earlier this year, quote, being thrown into jail until he dies because he exposed secrets that the US admits did not cost lives, unquote. Well, let me make a couple of points which are conveniently ignored in all the discussion about Julian Assange. He's charged under the US Espionage Act and charged with one count under the US Computer Fraud and Abuse Act for passively receiving information. Julian Assange professionally is an Australian publisher. He is not accused of hacking. He's the first publisher in history to be charged with espionage. He faces 175 years in prison, all for engaging in regular journalistic activity, basically exposing what he believed was political corruption. What has to be said is that Julian Assange did not hack the US records, nor did he assist Chelsea Manning to hack the US servers. She already had access to the documents in question. Indeed, Chelsea Manning took full responsibility for obtaining the documents. All Assange and WikiLeaks did was passively receive information, then assist in protecting Manning as a source and publish the cables, just as the New York Times, The Guardian and other media organisations do and did. Indeed, Chelsea Manning said, and I quote, although I stopped sending documents to WikiLeaks, no one associated with WikiLeaks pressured me into giving more information. The decisions I made to send documents and information to WikiLeaks were my own decisions, and I take full responsibility for my actions, unquote. But because Julian Assange published, as did other media organisations, he's currently in maximum security prison in the UK, Belmarsh, as a prisoner. During the trial of Chelsea Manning, it was confirmed that no US personnel were put at risk or harmed due to the publications. But what has happened is the publisher, Assange, has been charged under the Espionage Act for exposing information that was embarrassing to the United States government, and such charges against Assange pose serious threats to the First Amendment of the US Constitution, which guarantees freedoms concerning religion, expression, assembly and the right to petition. It clearly guarantees freedom of expression by prohibiting Congress from restricting the press or restricting the rights of individuals to speak freely. This has been going on for over 10 years now. Understandably, respected psychiatrists have identified Assange as a person at high risk of suicide. On one occasion on his way to court, he was handcuffed 11 times, strip searched twice, and his case notes were confiscated by prison authorities. Julian Assange grew up in Australia and in 2006 set up WikiLeaks in order to provide a platform for the publication of undisclosed material that involved misconduct and corruption in government. In the 17 years since WikiLeaks was created, the media organisation has disclosed more than 10 million documents revealing corruption and widespread abuse of power. In 2010 and 2011, WikiLeaks published material provided by Chelsea Manning, who was born Bradley Manning, a former United States Army soldier, who was convicted in 2013 of violations of the Espionage Act after leaking material to the publisher WikiLeaks. She was imprisoned from 2010 to 2017, but then her sentence was commuted, pardoned by President Obama. In other words, she was pardoned, but Julian Assange is imprisoned in Belmarsh, a maximum security prison in the UK reserved for violent criminals and offenders, imprisoned without any conviction. George Christensen is the National Party member for the federal seat of Dawson. He was part of a cross-party delegation which met in Canberra earlier this year with some of Washington's top officials, arguing that Julian Assange, the Australian citizen, should be allowed to return home. The matter is now before the High Court of England this week, England and Wales, where the US government is seeking to overturn a district court decision from January this year that Assange not be extradited, and America want to put him on trial relating to the publications of these documents. But the US government in the latest development has promised that if Assange were extradited to trial in America and sentenced, he would be allowed to transfer and serve his sentence in an Australian prison. But then the High Court heard that Australia may not accept any future US sentence handed down against Assange if Australia didn't believe the behaviour was criminal or the sentence proportionate. So where are we? George Christensen joins me. George, thank you for your time. I mean, this is a brand new definition of justice, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mean, they want to send him back to Australia, and we want him to come back to Australia as far as I'm concerned, but they want him in cuffs and incarcerated, probably no doubt in a maximum security prison somewhere here. And that's just not right. It is not just. You've just outlined the case, Alan. I can't do it any more justice than to say that someone should not be behind bars simply for journalistic endeavour, for the normal sort of things that go on when you get something as a reporter, get some information as a reporter, and go and publish it. Now, the US might not like it, I might not like it, other people might not like what they saw from WikiLeaks. But the fact is that they've got a right to publish it as any other reporter does.
And indeed,
someone shouldn't go to jail for that.
And indeed, other publishers did publish it. Inside the cover, George, of the Australian citizen's passport, inside the cover, everyone can check their passport, turn it, go inside the front cover, and the individual is assured that the Commonwealth of Australia will, quote, afford him or her, because you've got this passport, every assistance and protection of which he or she may stand in need. George, what protection and assistance has Assange received from the Australian government?
Well, he's received consular assistance, but quite honestly, Alan, much more needs to be done than just ordinary consular assistance. Now, I'm not privy to all of the diplomatic goings-on, the discussions that happened between Scott Morrison and Joe Biden, or Maurice Payne and her counterparts in the US and the UK, but I am assured that there have been those discussions. But what I'm going to do, Alan, is I'm going to send the signal up, put a flag up the flagpole with a private members bill that basically says that if you jail one of ours, an Aussie, a journalist, for the crime of doing journalism, then that's an illegal act, and we'll see how they like that.
Absolutely. See, the key point needs to be made is that the material was given to his company by Chelsea Manning. She's taken full responsibility for the documents in question. All Assange did, and this is not ever publicly acknowledged, he passively received information, protected his source, which journalists do, and that's what all media organisations do. And Chelsea Manning said that sending the documents to WikiLeaks was my own decision. Now, you met with American officials in March this year. Everywhere you go, there seems to be a roadblock. What happened to that?
Oh, look, they're very mum. They listened intently and they told us that they would take it away and take it back to the White House. But the White House has done nothing but appeal the decision which was in the UK courts, as you said, to not extradite him. So the Biden administration is obviously completely and utterly wedded to this decision to get Assange. And that's not something new. We know that Joe Biden called him when he was a vice president for Obama. He called Assange a high-tech terrorist. Hillary Clinton hated his guts. She wanted to drone him. So he's got no friends in the Democrats, sadly.
No, because he was exposing, the Democrats were being exposed. The development this week in the last couple of days, George, is that the High Court in London were given the assurance that any future US sentence handed down against Assange could be served in Australia, but then Australia, the court was told, may not accept him if they didn't believe the behaviour was criminal or the sentence proportionate. So Julian Assange is left swinging.
Yeah, he is, and he'll be stuck in a US jail cell probably for about 10 years while their judicial process will go on anyway. Why would we lock up one of our own for journalistic endeavour? It does not make sense. So I think the US just needs to drop these charges. I mean, I love the USA, big supporter of the Australia-USA alliance, but this is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea Manning's had her sentence commuted. She's been pardoned, and WikiLeaks, the publisher, Assange, is facing 175 years of imprisonment. I just say to our viewers, he's been held in a maximum security prison jail in Britain, which is a jail for violent criminals. He's imprisoned with no conviction. George, what's the state of his health? I understand he suffers from a lung condition, which places him at high risk of contracting coronavirus.
That's right. I've been in contact with his mother recently, today in fact, and she says he's not doing too well at all. When I saw him last year, I saw him in January of last year, and I've got to say that he seemed disoriented, Alan, as you would expect from someone that's been in a jail cell for that long, and then before that locked up in a little hovel of an Ecuadorian embassy. So he's been sort of incarcerated in one form or another for many, many years now, and it's taken its toll. It certainly has.
The Republican Senator Rand Paul has said, and I quote, "The founding fathers would have protected WikiLeaks at all costs, and it's time we inherit their spirit." George, what about our founding fathers and what is written inside the passport? Afford him, you, me, anyone, every assistance and protection.
Well, until this pandemic stuff, I thought that freedom was the bedrock of Australia, Alan, but that's all seemed to change. That's another issue altogether. But really, do we believe in free speech? Do we believe in the right of a free press? Or do we believe in locking people up behind bars indefinitely for doing journalism? That doesn't make sense to me. That's not what this nation is about. And I do hope and I believe that at diplomatic sort of conferences that happen, that these issues are being raised. I hope it just gets raised a lot more, because he needs to come
let me
back.
raise something. Let me raise something I've raised before. I previously quoted Jammal, who is in charge of the Amendment Institute at Columbia University. And he has said, quote, "The charges against Assange rely almost entirely on conduct that investigative journalists engage in every day. The indictments are a frontal attack on press freedom." Now, George, you wrote to Boris Johnson, didn't you, arguing there was something inherently wrong.
I did.
That a British court was going to decide that an Australian citizen was to be extradited to yet another foreign country. Did you get a response?
No, I didn't. And beyond that, Alan, I mean, it's a country where they're saying he committed a crime when he actually wasn't even in that country to do that crime. I mean, this is an extraordinary extraterritorial criminal allegation. It is just so wrong. Can I just tell you one other bizarre thing, Alan, about this? I've seen the list of charges against him in the case. One of the things that they claim about espionage is that there was conspiracy to commit espionage, and that conspiracy was done by Julian Assange because he posted on his WikiLeaks site that he was looking for whistleblowers. I mean, can you imagine? Actually, just posting a comment saying you're looking for whistleblowers makes you a conspirator to espionage. It's absolutely ridiculous, and that shows how jumped up these charges are.
I'd make one final point to Scott Morrison, Maurice Payne, the Foreign Minister. We're a good ally of the United States. We always boast about this. We dispatched a warship to the Gulf when we were asked. We went into Afghanistan when we were called. We've sent trainers and planes into Iraq and Syria. We host 2 communication bases in Australia. Aren't we entitled to a modest request that, in the spirit with which Barack Obama pardoned Chelsea Manning, drop the extradition orders against Julian Assange? And why hasn't that been represented to the American government by Scott Morrison and Maurice Payne?